Hello and welcome to PM Express. My name is Nana Ansakwa, and as usual we're sat in the beautiful lobby of Alisa Hotel, and I must say they have been very kind and giving us their premises to film outside of studios. Indeed, myself and my guest really love it because it's more relaxing and it's not too rigid, so that's why we're here again today. And today we are looking at linking industry with academia. However, the industry I'm talking about today does not exist. And it's one industry which academia can easily link up with and create such job opportunity. With me to discuss this issue is Daniel Kwachi. Daniel is the CEO of Danest Engineering Company Limited. And let me say that Daniel is a welder. Now, normally, if I say welder, you expect to see your overalls in blue and car wash, as I said. But no, this gentleman sat next to me is a welder. Daniel, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Very good. Now, I didn't let you, I was pleasantly surprised, so you're going to meet a welder, you expect to meet some macho man with, But on a more serious note, we're talking about an industry which can create a huge job opportunity that is being missed. From the layman point of view, we always see a welder when we're welding a gate or you're welding, burglar proof or something. But you see beyond that, and I think you have to educate us.
Right. A small correction over here is that you move from a welder to an expert welder, and now I'm an inspector, a welding inspector. And a welding educator, a certified one, a member of the American Welding Society.
Okay.
Now, welding, as you've rightly said, is just a method of joining metals. Right. So in the aircraft industry, in the marine industry, oil and gas industry, ship repair, construction, name it, all those industries use welding as a form of joining materials. But it is done according to international standards because it's an international business, right? So, well, if somebody is welding the buckler proof or any other thing, they don't have a problem as much because there's no one asking them to weld to a specific code that will be audited by an accredited body. But welding in industry must be done according to this code, and it will be inspected by qualified and certified entities who have been qualified internationally, right? That is why welding for the oil and gas industry and other industries are different from what we see by the roadside and so on. There are no liabilities with those who are around.
I see. So, but you're mentioning codes. I was going to leave it to the end, but let me come in here. So, is there a specific code that, if I went to Israel, I said, well, this thing has been welded to code 5, and therefore whether I'm in Israel or Egypt or Ghana, it's still the same code 5.
Right. Internationally, and it started with the American Welding Society. Now, if you want to weld anything structural, that's shipyard, tall buildings, these buildings and so on, building code. The code you are going to use is called the AWS D11, D1.1, structural steel. D1.1 structural steel. Now, if you are to
it's worldwide?
It's worldwide, yes. If you are to weld pressure vessels and piping, the code is ASME, American Society for Mechanical Engineers. ASME, the section 9 is for welder qualification. And then if you are doing cross-country pipeline, say if you have to weld pipes from, let's say, Atuabo right down to Abuazi, which is about 110 kilometers, you have to apply that code. API 1104.
So that's standard worldwide.
That's standard.
The job opportunity-wise, what are we looking at?
Right. So if you are to, let's say, this 110-kilometer pipeline, you have to weld 12-meter length of pipe to cover all this distance. And you were talking about 9,000 pipes plus that must be welded. 9,000 joints will have to be made. Now let's say the welder value of the joint, let's say $100. So you're talking about 900,000 US dollars for just that project. This is a conservative figure. So there's so much in it.
How many men would you need averagely to do that 9,000 joints?
Yeah, you get about 20 to 30 qualified welders over a period. Yes.
To do the 9,000 joints?
Yes.
I mean, I think it's an area that's been underestimated.
Right, right. And that's not the only project. We have so many projects coming up. Like right now, we have the port expansion. And very soon they will have to go on into infrastructure at the shipyard and dry dock. There are other things like more power plants coming in. Ahead of late, GE signed an agreement to provide a 1,000 megawatt power plant. Now, power plants, you have so much welding over there, and this must be done by welders. You know, a big component of the labor force, the skilled labor, must be in welding. See, but as I've said, those who do such welding must weld according to a code, and they must be qualified and certified according to that code to be able to do that work.
See, another thing which I think has become an attitude is if somebody doesn't say they're a doctor or an accountant, we look down on their profession, you know, psychologically. And therefore, maybe we need to get out of this, because, you know, you're taking really technical terms above my head here, you know. And I think, how do we let people be aware that, you know, being a welder is a respectable job?
Yes. See, so for this opportunity that you've granted me today, one will help people to understand that now it's not just a matter of saying you want a job and you have a master's in this or a degree in this and so on, so that that guy should employ you. No. In the welding industry, the language they understand is that I want a welder who can weld steel in the 6G position. Now, for you to understand 6G, you should have attended a welding school. You should have been taught by a proper welding instructor, and he will instruct you in all these ways. And you know what 6G means. Basically, it just means that you are putting two pipes together, skewed at an angle of 45 degrees. And you have to weld from the outside. An inspection made in both the inside and outside by a certified inspector. So that after that, you also have what we call the destructive and non-destructive test on that joint that you've made. And they must all pass the acceptance criteria that have been prescribed for that joint. Now, if you pass, then you are qualified to weld in similar situations in production.
What I would say, I mean, how much welders do we need in Ghana, or how many welders do we need in Ghana?
Yeah.
And how many are we lacking?
Right, right. Now let me give you a simple analogy. Say if you are a businessman who runs these cars like the Pajeros and so on rental basis. You run that for a company, let's say Talo. Then Talo comes in to say, oh, because you are a good businessman, we want to give you another contract. But this time, we're giving you a contract to buy bigger trucks, like 14-wheeler trucks. Now, we want you to do this work for us. Pick boulders, stones, big stones, from, let's say, 14 kilometers away. Get that to the port, and then do a reverse. You're going to dump those stones in the sea. But you can't just go in there and turn. So you have to make a reverse from the port and then drive reverse for half a mile, then go and tip over there. Are you sure you are going to use your drivers? You buy those trucks, use your drivers in doing that work?
No, you need some.
That's exactly what we're talking about. So we have guys here who weld containers, weld burglar proof, so many things. You know, but now we're talking about structural issues. We're talking about pipes that will carry very high pressure gas. You can't mess up bringing such guys in unless you train them, you qualify them, and then you certify them to that type of job. You can't use them. So that's the problem. The contractors in Ghana here have that problem, because if they get such a job, our people are not trained to that level to tackle such jobs. So they are forced to bring people from outside, and it's better for them that way. But the social implications of it as well, you know, you talk about welding, and then you bring welders from outside to come and do that job. But the issue is, if you say no, use our Ghanaian welders over there. If there is a liability, if there is a failure, and that joint must be repaired. Mind you, repair cost is about 5 to 6 times the original weld.
Wow.
So if you put a Ghanaian there, and he's trying his best, but just can't make the joint according to the standard, you have to repair it. Now, who is to bear the cost of that repair? See, so contractors here are being hesitant looking for local guys, unless those contractors who have been able to employ these guys, who have some knowledge in welding and have kept them in their jobs and have retrained them for those specific purposes. The problem we have right now is that all those welders are gainfully employed now, and they are in the industries. But those who are looking for new welders onto new projects have a problem, because the welders that are there now don't have the opportunity, don't have the facility to train properly to meet those standards, because countrywide we don't have those established standards. No, it's not there.
I mean, the common sense is that almost every foreign investor that comes, a huge chunk of the money goes back to them, because we can't, even if you put in local capacity clause, you don't have that local capacity. But the question I asked was, ideally, is there a statistic to say, look, we are short of 3,000 welders or 100,000 welders? Or?
Yeah. Now let me just give you an idea. When I know they're thinking of constructing this Tuambo free port or so. Now, if that free port were to come on, you need not less than 300 to 500 welders to work over there. The shipyard and dry dock at the Tema port and Takoradi port, if they start full operation, they will need between 300 and 500 welders. So in the interim, thinking of the next 3 years, we should have about 1,000 qualified and certified welders to the code in the system.
Wow.
Now look at our training institutions. All the instructors over there would have to be trained, qualified, and certified to be able to train other welders. That hasn't been done. All their facilities will have to be upgraded, to be able to handle such training. We haven't done that. See, so the problem is, we first of all must identify the fact that there is a skills gap, and that skills gap must be filled. How do we do it? That is my proposal. I've got a few points that I need to talk about on this.
Okay.
And if those who are in charge will listen, then that's the best way. Then I'm sure we're going to go forward.
Okay, so we'll get to the proposal. Once, somebody is trained as a welder, and then, you weld the Atuabo pipeline and it's finished, then what else? What do you do?
Oh, okay. Let me give you an idea. Right now, we have one shift of a crew that goes on to the FPSO or the rigs. They go 28 days on, 28 days off, relaxing. because when they get there, they don't see their family, they don't do it. So 28 days on, 28 days off. Now they will have to be replaced. That shift will have to be replaced. So it means that if jobs are going on, you know, you finish with, let's say, the T3, T4 at Abuadzi, when that's finished, they'll be building another plant somewhere else. And it's the same guys who need to work in that industry. That's number one.
So there's job availability.
Number two is that we have Guinea here, who are always looking for guys to do their welding over there. And our country's contractors are taking contracts over there. And they will need qualified and certified welders to work over there. All the mining companies, they have affiliates elsewhere. And they want to use their trained welders from Ghana to work in such areas. So the market is there.
I'm going to take a break here because this is getting quite exciting. And when we come back, we'll find out how do we even train? How do we begin from? Stay tuned. Well, hello and welcome back to discussion of, if I may change it to the missed opportunity. And it's getting quite interesting, Daniel, but it's quite revealing. It's quite revealing. You know, I wouldn't have thought, you know, welding wouldn't have been my first option if I was thinking about job creation. But I think it's been a much eye-opener. Now we're thinking of training at least 2,000 bodies. Do we even have an institution to start with, to start such a training, and how do we go about it?
Right. At the moment, we have some training institutions in the country, like the NVTI, the polytechnics, the technical institutes. We have the OIC, and some others who are training in welding. But you see, these are established not on any code requirement, because I asked for their procedures, welding procedure specifications. That's the basis for welding in industry. It's a document that outlines exactly all the things that are going to be involved in the welding. Welding procedure specification, WPS. I asked them and they have no idea about that. Meaning that the type of welding they are doing over here is for constructing local things.
Get my electron and weld the thing. You want procedure? What procedure? This is the procedure.
That's right. So I mean, that's the way. That's number one. Number two, the facilities are outmoded, I would say, because there are some welding institutions that have certain equipment. Now, for instance, in the advancement of the welding industry, there are new electrodes coming up. Hitherto, there are electrodes that can be welded using the AC welding machine. You know, AC, the electricity we have right now is AC.
Okay.
But there are
hold on. In the old industry, you can use the AC to weld?
We used the AC to weld long ago, AC machines. AC machines.
There are new machines now?
Well, they've seen that this AC, you know, we have a curve, you know, the curve of the current. The AC curve is sinusoidal. It moves, you know, the sine waves. It moves from 0 to 90, 90 to 0, then 270, 360, that's 0, and then starts again. It's a sinusoidal wave. Now, advancement in science and in the welding industry has moved them into inventing this DC direct current. So the AC current is converted into direct current. And that direct current is better for melting certain electrodes for certain processes. So these DC equipment, companies are now producing electrodes that will only use a DC. Yes, like the 6010 electrodes, 7018 electrode, best used on DC equipment.
And would that be for like maybe specifically for steel, aluminum, or steel crossboard?
Yeah, that also brings us to the processes. We have 4 major processes that manual welding is involved in. Manual, I mean, the welder will have to be there and then pick the holder and then strike an arc. That's a shielded metal arc welding. Then we have the gas metal arc welding. That's a semi-automatic process. Then we have the flux cord arc welding and the gas tungsten arc welding. And basic welders must know how to deposit welds using such processes. They must master all the techniques, you know. So these equipments are designed to perform exactly what they say they are going to do.
So to become a welder today, this is the standard
you have to go through the processes.
So that if I was bringing an oil rig, this is the type of welder I'll be looking for.
It depends on what you are going to do. If it's just a common repair on carbon steel or low alloy steel and so on, yes, you need a shielded metal arc welding. You bring a simple machine and then work on that. But there are some that will need a gas tungsten arc welding for the root, and then you finish it with the same process, or you finish it with a stick. Now, the welder who is going to do that job should be proficient in the GTAW and be proficient in SMAW, that's dual process. So you see, their market value goes up if they are able to do more processes and are certified in more processes. So that now, if we say we bring in a welder from outside, what it means is that that welder is qualified and certified in all these processes. So no matter where you put him, he'll be able to perform and do your work for you and take his dollars away. You see, so my proposition is that let's get our people trained to that level. And you need about 3 years to be able to do that.
Because I was just going, my next question was, you see, we tend to find that, well, he's not very good in academics, so let him go and weld. Well, he's dropped out of school, you know. But what you're talking about is not when you dropped out of school.
Yeah, that was the mentality 50 years ago. Mm-hmm. So now in the US, they have what is called a welding forum. That involves parents, communities, that's counties and so on, coming together. There are high schools and coming together in the form of a joint venture, and then establishing centers or laboratories for welder training. Mm-hmm. And straight from high school, they have some of these equipments, laboratories in their schools. And it is made part of their training so that those who want to go into the welding are supported to have at least a basic entry-level qualification out of high school. So when they will do their high school courses, all right, mm-hmm. but they will also have to go through the rudiments of at least gaining one process, a welding in one process. So after school, after high school, they have the opportunity of being employed straight ahead. And so when they are employed, their employers make sure that after training them a little while, they just send them to another school that will improve upon their welding. And they have the job all right. And there are some who after high school want to go to college or university and so on, and then come back to learn welding. But whatever it is, if you are a professor in the welding industry, necessarily you must know how to weld.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It seems as if there's a lot of job opportunity in the welding.
Right. That is exactly so. You know, I just talked about the welder, but these same welders will have to graduate into supervisors. Now, these supervisors are the ones who take control of real projects, and they will have to work under inspectors. They will have to work under engineers in the production unit, you see. So it's a chain. And then you have these same guys graduating into what we call the quality control department. This is a department that is the heart of any production unit. It comes right below top management, because industry now will have to operate according to certain standards, like the ISO 9001 and co. They will have to do that, you know. So it is this office that will have to get information about material acquisition, consumables, training, everything that will make this thing go on. For example, if you have a production unit producing transformer core, it's a very technical thing. You've seen the ECG transformers and so on. If you are a contractor and you have that contract to build about 1,000, you're not going to mess up with how you do that, because you have to go through certain systems. So the employers, the businessmen are always looking for people who are trained. You see, if you get someone who has gone through this training, if you employ someone like that, it is easier for you to better the training, to improve upon their training. But you will not go in for somebody who has no idea at all about this. It takes so much time, it takes so much effort to train such ones. That is why the proposal is that we can incorporate this type of training in the technical schools, even to the universities. Yes, because there are other aspects of it, like the non-destructive testing. Now, these pipes that I'm talking about, after every weld, a guy should come in there and shoot a radiograph. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to do that radiograph. Guys from high school have trained on how to use their radiographic equipment, and they can shoot x-rays and then interpret and do everything. They have level 2. And that's all that is needed. You see, and these are very simple equipment that the polytechnics, the universities can have, and then start training people on them. I did mechanical engineering in school. And I remember so well, I saw the tensile testing machine, I saw the nick brake test machine, and so, I mean, just to pass out. And when I came out, I never used that. I never thought of it till I went into welding and came into welding inspection. And I saw that these are the necessary tools needed for destructive test. You see, so that...
So destructive test simply meaning you just see how much pressure you apply before it breaks?
After the weld, you do what we call the visual inspection. You look at it and see whether it conforms to all the acceptance criteria set. Now, after that, you want to know what is inside. So, if you want to know what is inside, you can use what we call the radiograph to take a radiograph of it. You can use ultrasonic testing to get to the welds, or a destructive test. You cut pieces out of it and subject the welded area to tension in the bend test. Or in a tensile test, you just pull it apart and see the pressure at which it will break off, and compare that to what that material is supposed to offer. Right. So this is another area.
But naturally, the welded joint will be weaker?
If it's done properly, see, that's the test. You see, if it breaks, let's say the material, the tensile strength of that material is 85,000 psi, and then you make a tensile test and it breaks at 95,000, it means that the welded area is strong, is stronger than the material. So that's the comparison. That's the comparison.
Okay.
All right.
Who should become a welder? I mean, you go to a school, is it those who did science, those who did mathematics, those who did English? I mean, who becomes a welder?
You see, I do training. I train welders in Takoradi at the moment. Now, ironically, those who come in and say, oh, I did visual arts and did this and that, they are the best welders. After 4 weeks, they are able to do all position welding, and I'm very happy. But those from Kokompe and other areas who have tried some welding, they are the worst.
They have too many bad habits.
Yes, and it's very, 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 very difficult to take that away. And that's the major problem. So as for welding, and especially the women, girls, oh, they can make the perfect welder.
I've never seen a girl welder.
No, they do. At the Abuadi thermal plant, during the construction of the T3, there were a few women, and they were very good. Yes,
I see. I see. I've never seen.
Yes.
Oh, is it because they are multitasked or?
Well. In the States, for instance, a conscious effort was made by certain groups to loop in girls into welding, and they're performing marvelous.
Wow.
Yeah, they're doing so marvelous on set things. Yeah.
And job-wise, outside of Ghana, how is it? Once you become a welder, opportunities outside?
Well, welding is just the means to an end. most people after university or after the polytechnic and so on will learn how to weld. They get into a job and they will never be able to weld because there is so much in the back office, you know, making blueprints, reviewing procedures for the company. It's a big job, doing inspection, doing quality control work and so on. But you see, if you don't have this background, it's very, very, very difficult for you to move into such positions.
Let me take a break here, and then when we come back, we'll look at the welding revolution. What should the states do? What should industry do to boost up this industry? Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to the subject of welding. Linking industry to academia has always been a discussion on the table. However, sometimes there's no industry to link with, but there is an opportunity where I think academia should work hard in conjunction with government, if you ask me. Maybe even community leaders like us should join in. Daniel, I mean, you have started, you know, your school or your engineering college, and you're training in your own small way. But then being a small, you know, you can only do your own small part. How can the state help, skills-wise, to boost up this industry?
Right. You know, around 2004, I didn't have anywhere in the country to train. So I have to stop my business, travel outside to the state, go check into a school, and then train as a welder. An old man welding with high school guys after high school guys, you know. Yeah, so I was able to do a 6-month program in 4 processes. The processes I've mentioned: stick, MIG, flux cord, and TIG. I did that. Yeah,
but before then, were you a welder?
No, I told you I did mechanical at USD, mechanical engineering. Okay. And I was working in the mining companies and glass factory, rubber estates, and so as a mechanical engineer, plant specific. I was doing plant engineering and so on. But when I returned from the States, I came with the idea that I was now going to improve upon I used to run a fabrication shop, you know, with welding and installation and so on. And that's what led me to go out. Now, after a while, I interacted with the American Welding Society, of which I'm a member. And I had my certification as a certified welding inspector. That allowed me to now organize seminars and look for more certified welding inspectors throughout the country. So what I've been doing at the moment is that sometimes I organize these seminars and I have a few companies coming in. I have a few guys from VRA attending sections. The only problem is that, you know, they see these seminars as just for welders. So they go in there and then pick a few welders. You go to that seminar. But what needs to be done? One is that a stakeholders meeting in the welding industry should be called for immediately. Now, I mean stakeholders from business, stakeholders from industry, from the academia and civil society immediately. Then before we can make any deliberation on this, go through a 2-day seminar, which I'll call 15 hours of information about the welding industry and how it should be carried out. Then after that 2-day thing, all those stakeholders, including people from the ministries of industries, Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Energy, because it's this oil and gas thing is involved, then Ministry of Education. These 4 should come together and then quickly assist in having this forum organized. Then after the first 2 days, each of them will know how this should be pushed. Then we have the 3rd day for a conference on what we are going to do. At the end of it, we should have a one-stop shop for all welding activities in the country. So if you are an industry, you go to them. If you want to train, you go to them. If you want to bring in consumables on a large scale to sell to the Ghanaian market and so on, you have to go to them. But at the moment as it is, you can't go to the Ministry of Education and ask them for anything about welding. You can't go to Ministry of Industries and ask them for anything about welding. There is no office, nothing like that. You know. So that is the first point that must be established. And then the stakeholders, the main policy makers, must be schooled on what is entailed in the welding industry. And then from there we will establish standards. Yeah. From there we will establish standards for the training, qualification, and certification of welders countrywide.
Is there an association yet, or you haven't formed one yet?
Well, I for some reason, I cannot form an association.
Oh, you can.
No, I can only advise those associations. You know, I'm an inspector. So if there's any issue about these associations as to how the welding is to be done and so on, I have to give my view on those things. And it must be an independent view. That's why I'm not part of such associations.
But are there any?
At the moment, I know of a few, like Ghana Pipe Welders Association and so on, but it hasn't been established in the way we're talking about. No, it hasn't. So that's why I'm saying that something must be done with immediate effect so that we know the course to chart. And then that will also tell us about what to do to start training now. Mind you, I told you, if you train a fresh person, you need about three years, including time for practical experience and so on, to be able to work on such projects. So if you start today, you have 3 years to think about it.
So they have to start now.
If you start now, you have 3 years.
But you see, the positive side is that there's so many idle hands at the moment, and lots of people crying for jobs.
Right.
And it looks like a well-paid job by the time you are qualified. So why are we missing the opportunity? And have you spoken to any ministries?
Yeah, it's expensive to train a welder, not only in Ghana. In the US, approximately it costs $20 an hour to train. So if the guy has to make 500 hours for the training, you multiply that by 20, and it's a lot of money. In the UK, it's even more expensive. It's £20.
Wow.
20
5. Multiplied by 5.
Yeah, you see. So my facility in Takoradi.
And you were saying the hours are the hours that you were welding, not the hours that you came to?
No. They say I've been in this school for 3 years and so I'm a welder. No, it doesn't work like that. If you're doing 35 hours this week, it's 35 hours in the booth.
Doing something?
Yeah, hitting the rod on the plate and striking an arc, seeing the paddle, following it with your eye, and then welding. That's it.
That's when your hours are counted?
That is it.
But you can't weld for that long.
You see, preparation is involved as well. You come in the morning, you do all those things, do the fit up and so on, go to the instructor, is it okay for me, is my root dimensions okay, this and that. Yes, that's all included.
Okay.
It's included in the counting of the welding hours. Yes. So each day you have 8 hours, but we take the 1 hour for break out. That's why we say it's 7 hours.
Okay. Is it difficult? Is it hard? I mean, I don't know if it's a good question, but is it a job for the faint-hearted?
The good thing about it is that when you are able to deposit your welds in the right place, you wouldn't want to stop welding. Oh, it's so interesting, and it's very easy. I say you can bring in 10 university professors into my shop, and within 1 week, I'll take them through all the processes and let them try their hands on it. You see, but the one thing about it is that even if you should qualify and you don't work with the process for 6 months, it's squash. You have to go back and requalify.
6 months.
That's it.
So that's how much they require of you to be skilled all the time.
That's it. That's it.
6 months. So what if you are unemployed for that length of time?
Well, for this high qualification, I don't see anybody here who is not employed. Because any time that someone trains and is qualified, I get a call. Do you have someone who is qualified to this? I say yes. Then I give that person's number, and he gets a job straight ahead. In fact, guys come in every day calling that we need such ones. I say I don't have.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's an opportunity that we need to take seriously and look into it, because there are too many idle hands and too many. There's a lot of qualified people who are probably looking in the wrong direction. So I think from this, they can contact you, right?
Right.
Yeah. Danest, yeah? Danest Engineering Company in Takoradi.
In Takoradi.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, thank you very, very much.
I'm so grateful.
And folks, as I said, tomorrow we'll be back to do it all over again. Thanks for watching.